Hello parents, and welcome to Parent Connect. Today we're going to connect with the Mobile County Public School System's Division of Health Services, and we have with us our lead nurses, Nurse Sharon Bailey and Nurse Pam Smith. Welcome, ladies.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
So today we want to have a healthy conversation, and we want to talk about as far as within the Mobile County Public School System. And we talk about health services. I know this conversation could go on and on and on and on, but let's start with something that as parents coming into the school system, doesn't matter if you're pre-K or 12th grade, medications. That's always a question, a concern, because students have different needs when it comes to medications. So when we talk about medications, what's a good place to start?
A good place to start with medications is when you have a student or a child that has medication needs that needs to be administered at school. You must bring a parent physician authorization form from the physician signed by the doctor to the school.
Now, does the doctor provide that form, or do we have access to that form and give it to the parent?
We have access to the form at the schools, but the doctors also, most pediatricians, have the form.
Access to the form. Okay. And then they fill it out. Does the parent sign the form as well?
They fill it out every year.
Oh,
Okay.
Every year you have to get it done yearly. Every year for every medication. Even
So there's
over the
one
counter.
form per medication.
Correct.
And you said even for over-the-counter medication?
Even over-the-counter
Like a
medicines.
Tylenol and an aspirin?
Yes.
What about a cough drop? We had a big conversation about that last week, about sending your kids with cough drops. Is that something that they have to fill out that form as well?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
we do.
Parents, now you know you do have to fill that out
All
just for a cough
over-the-counter
drop.
medications and all prescribed medications must have a parent physician authorization filled out by the physician. The parent must sign also.
Okay.
And then they bring the form to who?
They bring the form to the school, to the nurse. or to
Along with the
health
medication.
home, along with the medication in the appropriate box or pill bottle. The pill bottle or box must match the physician parent authorization form.
Okay, so if you get, for example, 30 pills and they're only going to need 15 at school, you can't just separate the 30 and show up with some regular bottle.
Right.
It has to be the bottle that the pharmacy gives you with the label.
Correct.
Okay.
How often do you see parents that with that situation, they want to take it and put it in a little cute pill container because they want to keep the...
For the
The other
most
bottle at
part,
home.
they are aware, most parents are, that their child has to have that bottle. And they'll get them to put them in two separate bottles if they need one for
okay.
home.
That's a
Pharmacy.
good
The pharmacy
idea.
I
will
did
give
not
them
know
a
you could
second
ask
bottle
that.
for home.
Okay.
Yes,
Good idea.
but it must match, and if it doesn't match, it'll be sent back.
Okay, and then the bottle that they get, if they were to split it, the bottle the pharmacy gives them, will it say 15 pills on each bottle, or does the bottle say 30, but they're not bringing 30 pills?
The bottle may say 15 if they split it. However, what they count out is what they need for school. So because
Okay.
we only are in school approximately about 20 days, they normally give about 20 days worth
Worth of the medication in that bottle.
Correct.
Okay.
So is that form good for the year or when the prescription needs a
calendar
refill?
year.
The calendar year.
It used to be from August to end of May or 1st of June, but the medication now is actually good for a calendar year.
Okay. That's
And
good.
whenever they do bring in the PPA and the
Now the
parent
PPA is,
Is
is
what?
the physician parent provider.
Okay.
Okay.
The form. It's a
Okay.
state form. It's not just Mobile County's form. It's
Okay.
the state form. And then the parents must bring it in. Parents bring it in.
Not
or
the
guardian,
child.
Not
Right.
the child. Don't hand it to the principal in car line. They
Bring
Bring
need
them
to
in a
bring it
Ziploc
in.
bag. I got my
It's
meds.
counted. Whoever receives the medicine, if the school has a nurse there every day, then the nurse would receive it, and she would count the medication in front of the parent, and both would agree.
and that's something good, Nurse Bailey, because as parents sometimes we get a little, well, why are they counting that? It's not about you bringing, it's just making sure that you have what's on this piece of paper.
And it is
Absolutely.
accountable.
Exactly,
Yes.
exactly.
What about when it's over-the-counter medication? Does that also have to have a label, like from the doctors for Tylenol? How does that work?
Well, we need it to be in an unopened bottle in the box. As long as we have the physician saying that we can give it, and then parent permission, signature, then we can take it without a prescription on it. But it needs to be an unopened bottle, and then we will put their name on it. But we have the physician's orders of the dosage. So we do that.
Okay, that's the other thing that the form includes then, the dosage and how many times at school they're supposed to be taking the
Absolutely.
medication.
Okay,
Absolutely.
okay. Well, parents, we're going to take a short break, and when we return, we're going to continue our discussion regarding medications at school. Thank you.
I want to stress that attendance in school is important for all students in pre-kindergarten through 12th grade. Students need to be in school for the full school day, from the time the bell rings in the morning until dismissal, to take advantage of all of the learning activities that take place throughout the day. The slogan is, attend today, achieve tomorrow. Attendance, it starts with us in the Mobile County Public Schools.
Welcome back, parents. As we continue our discussion, our healthy discussion in regards to medications at school, one thing that I do want to say again, parents need to make sure that when they're sending, whether it's over-the-counter, prescribed medications, that you have your PPA form, but the parent must bring that into the school.
Yes,
Absolutely.
it cannot be sent by a child in a book bag. It has to come by the parent so it can be counted.
Counted with the nurse.
With the
And
nurse.
document.
And
Exactly.
document
Because
it.
if not, you will receive a phone call that in order
Will
for
not be
this.
given.
Right, exactly. So we've talked about those medications. So what about in the case of a child giving medications
Doing
themselves?
the medication themselves.
We have asthma, we have children who are diabetic, the EpiPen. So how does that work?
With the self-medication of medication by the student, the physician on the PPA has to sign that that child can self-administer.
That was going to be
That's
my
the
next
first
question.
thing.
On the form, it does state
does
that
state-
the child is, I guess, old enough or knowledgeable enough
And is there an
that they
age?
can, yes, that they can do it themselves.
Do you have 5-year-olds that can do certain things? Or?
For the most part,
Like
we don't have a
diabetes,
lot of other 5-year-olds actually doing the medicines because even with the diabetics, with the 5-year-olds, because they're so brittle, we check behind them.
Okay.
Okay, but there are a lot of students that can give themselves like inhalers, but the physician must say, first of all, that the child can self-administer. Then the mother has to sign on the bottom of the sheet
Saying that they
says
agree
that the
with
child
that.
can self-administer. And the third component is that the nurse must assess every child that says they can self-administer to determine if they are actually knowledgeable enough.
So when you say
be able to
assess,
do it.
what does that look like?
We have a self-medication assessment form for the nurses. There are a series of questions in regard to what the medicine is for, when do you give it, how much do you give, about
And if
side
the student
effects.
was able to
and,
do
and they
it,
can demonstrate and show you they know how to do it. The student signs, the parent again signs, and the nurse signs. So every child that has an order to self-administer has to be assessed.
and it has to have the two, I don't know if it's two different forms,
It
but
is
two
two different
different,
forms.
two different
Wow, okay.
signatures.
Yes.
What about for if you are diabetic and like testing, doing the little where you prick your finger to
check
test
your
your
blood
blood?
sugar.
Can kids do that themselves?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And they start immediately while in the hospital. They start teaching. And we, from get-go, we want them to be self-sufficient. And, you know, at some point down the line, then they can be totally self-sufficient after they go through a little bit more extensive process. But we have to make sure that they, know what to do in an emergency and to contact, let a parent or school instructor, whatever, teacher know that they're having issues.
And
But
do they come to the nurse to check their sugar?
they will come to the
Okay.
nurse, and that is one thing that we have multiple children, unfortunately, in our school system that do have type 1 diabetes, and so we will go, and each day, whatever time that they need to be assessed, a nurse will be there.
Nurse Smith and Nurse Bailey, have you all seen an increase over the years of students who are self-administering medications, even for because they're diabetic or?
Or
Yes.
just taking a lot more medication
Yes,
during
we
school
are
hours?
seeing quite a few more students actually with diabetes as early as preschool students. 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds are diabetics, and we also see a lot of them by the time they get to middle school and high school. Most of them are self-sufficient as far as being diabetics.
imagine.
That they can actually check their own sugar, and they know exactly what symptoms they are experiencing and can tell you. But with the diabetic students, as well as all the other medical conditions that we have, the nurses have to do a individualized care plan that states what we do, and the teachers and the staff that they come in contact with are giving a copy of those care plans, so they'll know what to do in case of emergency.
We don't know what, you say go see the nurse or this child has to see the nurse. They really are seeing the nurse and the nurse is seeing them. You don't know what's going on behind the
No, you
scenes
sure
when you
don't.
talk about, something as an inhaler. In order for that to even take place, there are these steps in place. And I think it's important for parents to understand we have to do our part when it comes to taking our children to the doctor, making sure that we're getting those meds filled, and even the communication between the nurses.
Absolutely.
So
And then my other question was, what about once the medication starts running out? Does the nurse contact the parent to let them know, hey, the inhaler's running low, you only have a few more days of this other medication?
Yes, we normally try to let a lot of them know within 5 to 7 days, because sometimes, especially with our controlled substances, they take that long before they can get it filled. But we try to let them know in an ample enough time that it's either expired, because medicines do expire, or that you're running low. And what we need is to make sure we have good phone numbers. Because the
That
phone
applies
numbers
to
change.
everything at school.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because you mentioned expired. I think as parents, sometimes you're about to take that aspirin and you realize, oops, it's expired. But we're talking about meds that are needed.
Prescription.
Exactly, and so you're checking to see if they're expired. You're checking for the refill, and we do know that we don't have the number of nurses needed for the number of students that we have, because it may be you have a list of students who do meds on a regular, but if all of a sudden I have something, then here I come with my paperwork for this short-term, med that I need. So then you have to add that.
Yes.
So on a given, you really don't know how many.
No, it changes every day.
And really, parents need to try their best to keep up with their child's medication at school, how much they're sending, for how long it'll be good for, 2-3 weeks out before you run out, to make sure that you have enough to send back.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Well, parents, we're going to take a break, and then when we come back, there's some things that if you've been in some of our schools, you may have seen, and I have a question with our lead nurses in regards to these devices that I've seen on the walls. Thank you, and we'll be back in a second. Welcome back, parents. Now, I'm in and out of schools, and even out here at central office. There's some nice little boxes, and I know it's important because they stand out. They're red, they're white, and I do know they are medical devices. What are those things, ladies? Because I'm sure the kids are saying, what's that
What is
for?
that?
We are very excited to have in each building, each school, automatic external defibrillators. And
Automatic external defibrillators.
Wow.
We have just recently got the supply, and we are excited about it to have those in each building in case we ever have an emergency, and we never know. Could be a student or a faculty member.
So
Could be
what
a
would the
parent
emergency
visiting,
look like? Just what would that scenario be, that emergency that we would need that?
Someone collapse and they're not breathing, they're not moving, and CPR is initiated, and it's so important to get the defibrillator or AED to that person within 3 minutes, and that gives you a better chance of survival from a cardiac event.
And who is trained to use one at school? I'm assuming the nurse, of course, but what happens if she's not there that day or something comes
We
up?
will
Who
have
else?
an emergency response team.
In
Pam, you
every
want to talk
school.
about that?
We will
There is
have
a
a
team.
emergency response team in all of our schools in Mobile County. And in that team, you will have people that are trained in CPR and are trained to use the AED. There are 2 AEDs in each school. There is a standard unit that's easily accessible, and there's also a portable unit that we have close to our PE department, our gym. In our schools right now, for the most part, the medication assistant people are trained, and the coaches are all trained. But we will be, in the future, training more personnel because of this huge undertaking that we've taken on with the AEDs. We need more people trained in CPR and first aid, and knowing how and when to use the AED.
You just mentioned something about the training, and I don't think this is something a lot of parents know. Not everyone can even give medicine. There's a training that personnel go through in order to
Absolutely.
give medicine. So then we've added this layer, emergency response team. I think that's wonderful.
It is wonderful. Definitely need more training. You don't want someone that doesn't really know what they're doing. Oh,
Exactly.
I think they're having some type of attack or something, and
Well,
try to use it themselves.
fortunately, the AED anyone can do because
It's
it
very
will
simple.
it will give you automatically the instructions of what to do.
Doesn't
will
it
talk to
speak?
you.
That's
Oh,
what
you
I
are
was going
kidding.
to
Once the
ask.
pads are placed in the correct position,
It will
it
tell
will
you
talk to you
what to do.
and it'll tell you if a shock
Talk
is
about
advised.
modern technology.
Stay
Absolutely.
clear. Don't touch the patient. Press
Yes.
the button.
And then it will tell you when to resume CPR.
Wow.
And we want everyone in the schools, all faculty and staff, to be CPR certified, and the nurses are going to provide classes for that. We want a minimum of 5 people in our smaller schools, but we'd like to have upwards to 10 or 12 in our larger schools to be on the team. And it's up to the nurse to keep everybody's the CPR is good for every 2 years, and it's through the American Heart
certified.
Association. And so we'll be having classes throughout the school year.
You know, it's amazing, and I guess because we always look for the nurse.
Yes.
But to realize now, because these are things that, we will learn how to do it at school, but in your everyday life, you just never know what you may
You never
walk
know
up
where
upon.
you'll be. If there is an
Exactly,
emergency,
exactly.
and at least you are trained, and you can at least help until 911
Until EMS gets there.
and the emergency team gets to school.
That is right.
Wow, that's wonderful. So the AEDs, are you all getting positive feedback or just a lot of questions asked? Because I know when I started seeing them, I was like, okay.
We're
What
getting
is
a
that?
lot of great feedback. It's the principals and administrators are so happy to have those things in their schools. And if it saves one life, it's worth the
Exactly.
effort.
Yes.
And
So
it does
true.
save lives. And the thing about it is knowing what to do and how to do it. And like Sharon said, it's very simple. The machine, once it's set up, it's a little portable unit.
Lightweight.
We're checking them every month to make sure that the battery is good and working condition, and The nurses are monitoring all of that, and we are, as Sharon said, getting ready to set up classes for not just nurses, for anyone that wants
Now,
I'm
I think
looking
that's
forward
really
to
good.
that,
Me
Paula.
too.
You and I need to
Yeah.
sign up.
Exactly.
take
We
we
are
are
in
First
and out.
class.
Okay.
So many,
Okay,
in and out,
we-
so many different
Exactly.
schools that would be great.
And,
You
and
never
just
know.
for the children, because you don't. And when you were saying the portable device near the gym, we know we have athletics. And not only for the students' sake, you have the coaches, you have parents that volunteer. Just taking it to the next level.
Yes.
And when you think about 20 years ago, we had the little first aid box and that was it. If,
Yes.
You know, that, and you depended on finding a nurse or calling 911. I just
to
think
get any
that's
type of help.
Exactly. Your division is just really versatile.
Covers
And
so many different
exactly,
things.
exactly. So we know we have the AED in the building. We have the nurses. We're taking care of the meds. One of the most, I say simple because it involves something really easy, taking your child, but the immunizations. That piece right there, and especially when you're getting ready to start school. What has changed? And I know the last time we talked about you may not see a blue card anymore. But we just can't get away from
It
looking
might
for
be
that
another
blue
color,
card.
but it's just something you're so used to thinking of as the blue card.
We still call it blue, but it actually can be white, purple, yellow. It's called the Certificate of Immunization now. And one of the updates that we are seeing, there is a state database called Imprint. And the majority of physicians' offices, whenever they do immunizations in their offices, they will automatically put this in for that child, that patient, into that database. So the nurses now have access to the database.
Oh, wow.
And if that student is in there, if we see that we do not have an up-to-date certificate of immunization, we can actually look into that database and see if their immunizations
If
are
that
up to date.
physician uses
And
that,
if they are, then we ourselves can print
Really?
that out.
So then the parents wouldn't have to go
Absolutely.
and request a copy because it would already be there.
Absolutely.
And then that's going to take care of decreasing a child's time out of school.
Yes.
And
Right.
I think that's wonderful.
And of course, this first quarter, the nurses are doing the immunization audit, and that's what they're checking on. And they may be getting a call or a letter stating your child is not up to date, and it's verified that in Imprint as well, and that you need to take your child to get their immunizations up to date. And the main one that we're having most issues with is the Tdap, which needs to be given at age 11 or going into the 6th grade.
To 6th grade.
And so that's the one that we have most issue with right now.
Okay. Parents, when we return from our break, we're going to finish our discussion in regards to the different immunizations that cause concerns, and that those different time points where you need to make sure that your child is getting their immunization updated. Thank you, and we'll be back in a second.
It's a fact. Bullying happens. Bullying can lead to serious physical and emotional pain. But there are some things you can do to prevent or stop it. Stand up for the person who's being bullied. Let the bully know that it's not cool to pick on others. Take action by reporting the bully to a teacher or principal. In the end, when you help someone who's being bullied, you are also helping yourself.
Welcome back, parents. So with immunizations, we always think elementary, middle. What about a child who's in high school?
A lot of our high school students, especially the seniors, will need to get the meningococcal injection.
I can't pronounce it, but what is that?
Is that
called
a new one?
Yes, and it's not really new. It's just really being stressed that they need that when they go off to college, as well as getting 2 varicellas, which is the chicken pox, and the MMR shots. They have to have 2 of those to go off to college. And I've found so many students calling back and saying, can you send us a copy of my blue card? But they still don't have the up-to-date
Exactly.
shots.
Because it's a new
So they need to make sure,
requirement.
yes, they're getting a meningococcal, which is MCV. They're also getting, that they have 2 MMRs and 2 varicella shots. And this year, we've also been encouraging students to get the influenza shot on flu shots because other outbreaks that they have a lot of times with the flu. And when they go to college, a lot of times they want them to have that flu shot. But it's just ongoing things that are happening, in Mobile County as well as other counties. And it's a need to be vaccinated. Now, there are parents that choose not to vaccinate. And they will have to get a certificate from the Board of Health with religious or medical exemptions. But other than that,
They need to have all the immunizations.
even coming from another state,
Okay.
we have to have an immunization card for the state of Alabama.
And that's something that all parents need to know. So immunization. So now this is, as a parent, as an educator, final word to parents. When do you keep your child home?
At
When
home.
not to send them to school?
You keep your students home. If they come to school and they leave school sick, they cannot come back to school until they have been 24 hours symptom-free
Symptom-free.
for 24 hours.
What about if they have a fever? What is
it-
considered a fever? At what temperature?
Above 100.4.
100.4.
100.4. Not 104,
100.4.
100.4.
They
Okay.
cannot come back
Cannot
to
come
school.
with a temp of 100.4. They cannot come to school if they have a chicken pox or a strep throat or anything like that. They cannot come to school with the pink eye unless they've had the medicines for a couple of days and that it's in their system. But obvious draining from the eye, they're going to be sent home. GI upsets, they're going to be sent home. If they throw up,
They'll be
they'll
sent
be
home.
sent home. And they
Sorry.
have to
Yeah.
stay home. They cannot come back the very next day.
It
They
has
have to
to
be
be
24 hours
Exactly.
worth of no symptoms. And I know that's hard on a lot of parents because they're working, but it's not just for their students, it's for the other students and staff as
And
well.
for the staff as well,
Exactly.
correct.
And so a lot of times there may or may not be a nurse there, depending on the school. But parents, if your child is sick, please don't put them outside sick. They got a fever burning up, sick.
Exactly.
Don't give them Tylenol that morning just to make that fever go down and then send them to school.
Because by 1 o'clock, it'll be coming back up.
Yes,
so-
and they'll be sick again
and
at
we'll,
school.
We'll have to call.
And because of our weather,
Exactly.
I want to encourage those parents that have children with asthma to make sure that they have gotten their inhaler during the weekend, not just that morning before it's time for them to go to school, because we have a lot of seasonal allergies in our schools.
Yes,
and
we do.
Asthma is one of the number one things, medical conditions in our schools.
Absolutely.
Because of the humidity and everything else. But please, parents, we want to work with you as much as possible. If your child is sick, take them to the doctor. Their illnesses can be excused with a doctor's note.
Yes.
Because they are checking attendance in the schools. So please keep your child home if your child is running a fever, having diarrhea, coughing uncontrollably.
Exactly.
They're going to be miserable at school if they feel that way. So certainly the best thing to do is make sure they're healthy.
Yes.
Go to the doctor, get a doctor's excuse, then bring them back at school. We would love for them to be at school
Yes,
when
we
they're
want them to be
feeling
there.
Exactly.
when they're feeling
Yes.
good.
Yes.
Exactly. Well, nurses, thank you all so
Thank
much.
you so
you.
much for all
Because
your
health is a
information.
serious matter.
It is.
Parents, thank you for being with us today. Health is a serious matter. Thank you all, and we hope you had a great time connecting today.
See you guys later. Bye-bye.